Hi, we're at BCE in Austin talking with Colin Kincaid, CTO of the Service Provider Branch of Cisco. Colin, thanks for being with us.
Great to be here.
So when we talk about service providers and their move toward virtualization, what are some of the challenges they face there?
Well, what we're really seeing is that the biggest challenge for most service providers moving to virtualization is less technology and more culture. And it's the challenge of shifting from really being very network-centric into having these IT skills and really that software-centric point of view and all the things that go along with it in terms of the tools and driving the mentality around software as opposed to the classic networking.
Where can they go to get those IT skills?
There's a combination of things. Some they have to hire those skills, some they have to retrain in order to build those skills. But an awful lot of it is they have to just go through the process. And that's what we're really seeing across the industry is a lot of the providers are starting to go down that journey. And it's a combination of trying to drive it organically through their networking organization, and some are trying to leverage their IT organizations in order to take what are classic IT skills and bring them together with the networking teams.
Okay. Let's talk about use cases for virtualization a little bit. What makes all of this work worth it? What are some of the use cases you're seeing come up?
Well, I think the biggest one that we started seeing early on was around cloud VPN and really how to start driving the business-to-business services. And really, once you get the basic services, that most of which are already in existence through hardware, starting to be able to add on new services like new firewall services and so on as part of the business-to-business side. On the consumer side, we're really seeing the biggest drive is around the virtualization of packet core, so the mobile delivery platforms. It's really taking off globally as one of the biggest use cases and driving things the hardest.
Okay. In general, how do you see service providers competing with over-the-top kinds of services in the future?
Yeah, I think over-the-top companies have really given the service providers a big struggle because the over-top providers are really driving bandwidth. And that's what's really sort of putting the sweat on the classic CSPs. We see really two sort of trends happening. One is the providers are starting to look at how they partner with some of these OTT companies in order to figure out how they can both reduce bandwidth as well as start to look at revenue opportunities. The other thing that we see is there's an awful lot of looking at new revenue streams that are competitive, such as acquiring video companies. We see an awful lot of that. The other and final thing that I think is the biggest unleveraged asset yet is all of the providers own these edge facilities, which are the closest to the customer. And they're working on how do they figure out how to use that to maximize the user experience, either through services their own or through providing that through some sort of service to the OTTs in order to drive revenue for the CSPs.
So in addition to over-the-top providers, you've got the public cloud, right? Amazon, Microsoft Azure. What kind of relationship do you see forming between service providers and the cloud guys? Do they compete? Do they partner? What's going to happen?
I think like many of these types of things, it's going to be both, right?
Okay.
We're starting to see everything from how they look at sort of colo hosting type facilities of some of those cloud services to really leverage that proximity aspect. We're also starting to see providers look at how they start thinking about NFV on some of those cloud services in order to really drive revenue and access to customers that they haven't traditionally had access to. Yet at the same time, I think they're incredibly fearful of all the things that the cloud providers are really doing. So over the next couple of years, I think we'll see an awful lot of transition, both in terms of business relationships as well as how the CSPs are thinking about how to leverage the cloud providers.
Okay, great. Well, Colin, thanks very much for being with us today.
Well, thanks, Greg.